Hello, psychology scholars. Welcome to our first lecture for Chapter 1, An Introduction to Psychology. This chapter covers what is psychology, the history of psychology, and what psychologists do. The next two slides are the learning objectives for Chapter 1. This is what we are going to go over, and this is what you will need to know for the proctored exam. Think of these learning objectives as your roadmap through the chapter and your study guide for the exam. Take a minute, hit the pause, and read through these. So in this video, we will focus on what is psychology. The story of psychology has no clear beginning. We cannot mark its birth on any calendar. We can speculate that the story very likely began when early humans developed the capacity to reflect on human nature. Maybe they were just as curious as we are today about what makes people tick. We do know that serious inquiries into psychological thought can be traced to ancient times, when philosophers began to record their thoughts about the nature of mind and behavior. The word psychology comes from two Greek roots, psyche, meaning mind, and logos, meaning study or knowledge. Psychology remained largely an interest of philosophers, theologians, and writers for several thousand years. It did not begin to emerge as a scientific discipline until the late 19th century. So let's begin with what is not psychology. Pseudoscience is a collection of beliefs, assumptions, or practices that are mistakenly regarded as scientific. For example, psychics, mediums, card and palm reading, astrology, numerology, paranormal events, creationism, or intelligent design, flat earth, and so on. Psychobabble is a form of speech or writing that uses psychological jargon or buzzwords to create an impression of truth or plausibility. It sounds scientific, but it is not. Widespread use in business management, self-help books, pop psychology. It confirms our beliefs and prejudices. A classic example, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Popular opinion and common sense are not often supported by scientific findings. Research findings challenge opinions and common sense. For example, the following are not supported by research. Opposites attract, spare the rod, spoil the child, and so on. So what is psychology? The contemporary or modern definition: psychology is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes, or the mind. Psychology relies on empirical evidence to distinguish it from pseudoscience and psychobabble. Unlike pop psychology, Scientific psychology is based on research and empirical evidence gathered by careful observation, experimentation, and measurement. When we talk about the mind, we typically refer to mental processes. Mental processes allow us to perceive the world. We use our senses, sight, smell, taste, hearing, and touch to take in information from outside ourselves. Mental processes include cognitions and affect. In other words, thoughts and feelings. Cognitions refer to mental processes involved in acquiring knowledge, which include perceptions, beliefs, thoughts, ideas, and memories. Affect refers to mental processes that involve our feelings, mood, or emotional state. Behavior refers to all of our actions that result from sensing and interpreting information. Behavior is what organisms do. Their overt actions and responses, which are the focus of research and theory. Overt actions are observable and include a range of behaviors: walking, gesturing, social interactions such as talking to someone, and emotional responses like laughing. These behaviors are called overt because they are directly observable. Certain biological reactions, like heart rate and patterns of brain activity, must be measured with instruments, but the instruments make these responses observable. So we think of psychology as the ABCs. The ABCs of psychology refer to the science of affect, behavior, and cognition. Psychology teaches us to think critically. Psychologists as a group tend to be very skeptical. In other words, we have a show me or where's the evidence attitude. Critical thinking does not necessarily mean criticizing. It means doing a good job evaluating evidence or evaluating information to reach reasonable conclusions best supported by evidence. It means developing intellectual tools to avoid being gullible or easily taken in by false claims or pseudoscience, those highly questionable or absurd ideas presented as though they are scientific truths. Here are 3 key questions to ask yourselves when you are presented with information. 1. What am I being asked to believe or accept? 2. What evidence is provided to support the claim? And 3. What are the most reasonable conclusions? Most people know what psychology is, but many are not quite sure about what psychology does. What purpose does psychology serve? What are its goals? Let's take a closer look at the major goals of psychology, what psychologists try to accomplish, and how psychology is used to solve real-world problems. One of the first goals of psychology is simply to describe behavior. Through describing the behavior of humans and other animals, we are better able to understand it and gain a better perspective on what is considered normal and abnormal. Psychology researchers use a variety of research methods to help describe behavior, including naturalistic observation, case studies, correlational studies, and self-report inventories. More about these in Chapter 2. The second goal of psychology is explaining behavior in addition to describing it. Why do people do the things they do? What factors contribute to development, personality, social behavior, and mental health problems? The third goal of psychology is to make predictions about how we think and act. Once we understand more about what happens and why it happens, we can use that information to make predictions about when, why, and how it might happen again in the future. Successfully predicting behavior is also one of the best ways to know if we understand the underlying causes of our actions. How many of you can accurately predict your best friends, significant others, children's, or parents' behaviors? You probably can, right? Finally, and probably most importantly, psychology tries to change, influence, or control behavior to make constructive and lasting changes in people's lives. From treating mental disorders to enhancing human well-being, changing human behavior is a huge focus of psychology. In many ways, these objectives are similar to the kinds of things you probably do every day as you interact with others. When dealing with a child or a friend, for example, you might ask questions like, what are they doing? Describing. Why are they doing that? Explaining. What would happen if I responded this way? Predicting. And what can I do to get them to stop doing that? Changing. One of the main ideas in psychology is that behavior is a biopsychosocial event. What this means is that our behaviors are influenced by biological, psychological, and social factors. The biological factors can include genetic predispositions, genetic mutations, natural selection, or genes responding to the environment. The psychological factors can include learned fears and other learned expectations, emotional responses, cognitive processing, and perceptual interpretations. The social cultural factors can include presence of others, cultural, societal, and family expectations, peer and other group influences, and media or other compelling models. All of these factors can play a role in determining how individuals think, feel, and respond. In our next video, we will discuss psychology's roots, or the history of psychology. But before we do that, I want you to take a few minutes to write down what others would fail to understand about you if they did not know your history. The reason for this activity is to help you engage with your own personal histories so that you see how much of the richness of what makes you who you are has come from past experiences, the good, bad, and ugly experiences alike. This is why we talk about the brief history of psychology, so that we can see why and how psychology has evolved over the last century. Psychology is a very young field compared to physiology, philosophy, chemistry, physics, and so on. So go ahead, take a few minutes and write down, just real quick, what would others fail to understand about you if they didn't know your history.